And we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first order of business we have tonight we have is the review of the minutes. What's the motion of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the minutes. All those, any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. Well, I make a, basically we're waiting for our dog officer to get here, to show up, so he's not here, so we'll give him a little bit more time. So I'll accept the motion to go out of order.
Chairman, I make a motion to go out of order and go to administrative business.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to go out of order into administrative business. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. We're in administrative business. Okay, the following administrative business, we have late night closing for the following establishments for the month of April. Gale House Grill, the Old Timer Restaurant, and Scooby-Doo's.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to allow the late night closings for Gale House Grill, the Old Timer Restaurant, Scooby-Doo's, and any other establishment that comes before the board with the police chief's permission.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded for the late night closings. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstain.
Opposed? 4 in favor, 1 abstention, Joyce. Basically, next up we have the MOC board, Mock Board of Directors, and it's time to renew the appointment for the Clinton representative seat on the Montechusett Opportunity Council Board of Directors, and our local Kevin Tivnan, right around the corner here, has been serving us for years in the position, is still interested in being on the board. So before we do that, I'd just like to thank him for his service on that board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to renominate Kevin Tivnan to the Mock Board of Directors.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been made and seconded to reappoint Kevin Tivnan to the Mock Board of Directors.
Under discussion.
Any discussion?
Yes, I've had a pleasure working with the Tipton on the board, and he continues to do an outstanding job, and he really takes his job seriously. It's really an asset for us to have him in the community working over there in Fitchburg with the Mock Board. So we thank him again, as Selectman also mentioned. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Any further comment, discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Steve is still not here, correct? Okay. So, for those interested, our dog officer will be about 10 minutes late and said word, so sit patient. He will arrive. Next up we have is old and new business, and we do have, this is an issue on Ash Street flooding. We do have our Superintendent of Public Works here, and Phil Bailey as well, who's familiar with that project. So, gentlemen, forward to the table, please. And they're here to give an update to the board on the recent developments that is in that area with the flooding problem. Gentlemen, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Really not a lot of progress because of all the, snow cover, and his land's been under heavy dose of snow, so there's been no flooding out there. It probably could have been frozen underneath it. So I'd left it with him that we were going to get in touch with him in the spring, and we'll investigate the problem and where the flooding is coming from and why, and try to find a simple solution instead of the high dollar solution that we had been talking about. Find something a little bit more reasonable and something we can fit in the budget. So from my point of view, that's still where we sit right now.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Does any board members have any questions for Chris?
No, I just feel very confident that the two gentlemen before us will be able to work with the homeowner to get a resolution that's fair and equitable to both sides, so.
Philip, do you have anything to add to the?
Well, as we've had a couple meetings, Chris and I, and we've been investigating where the water is coming from, where the water sources are in that area. And as you gentlemen know, we have to straighten out the property down there, and we promised Mr. Grillis that we'd help out and try and get the problem solved. As it is right now, I was down there again today, just because we are getting a thaw, but again tonight we're going to get some more snow.
Hopefully.
I think there's one issue that we've been talking about. The Coach Lace Pond drains into the Counterpane Brook that basically comes through the culvert, which is what we feel is overflowing and causing a lot of the problems in there. And if we could control the outflow coming out of Coach Lace Pond, we might be able to resolve a lot of these issues. We don't own the gate structure basically coming out of Coach Lace Pond. Tyka owns that. They own the water rights, and they own, and I assume would have to maintain that building. So I don't know, Dennis, if you could maybe look into, can we either fix it or basically force them to fix it, because we're having flooding problems because of that's partially caused by not being able to control the water coming out of there right now.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
a question for
Sure.
John. Chris, have you talked to the Army Corps of Engineers?
I haven't. I put a call into them, but nobody has returned my call yet. I
'Cause
know a
they
few people.
run numerous flood control
Yeah,
projects.
they do flood control projects. I think just from past experience, and we've done, in my past job, we did Corps of Engineer projects. You're probably looking at 8 to 10 years.
Before
By the
they
time you
react?
contact somebody, before they will do anything. And that's pretty typical of their stuff, you know. It's not something that's gonna happen in the spring.
I don't think Joe Grillis will wait 8 or 10 years.
No, and I don't blame them.
Back when the Gannons had the water rights to Coach Lace Pond, they owned the land underneath it, and I imagine they sold all those to these people. Having been up there, there's four in the main channel, there's four wooden, we used to call them gates, where they could put the plank in and hold them to the high water mark. Well, right now they're not. 2 of them are wide open. What happens is, and as Chris will tell you, we have a storm. We have a 3 or 4 day storm. We have sheet drainage from Verted Hill, sheet drainage from the top of Church Street down, and everything ends up in the culvert. Okay, so with the flood of water coming out of the ponds, it doesn't give our inverts a chance to empty into the culvert until it's receded enough so that they can burst and get through. And this happened in back of Oxford Court and the like. Well, we have a lot of sheet drainage down there, and we believe that is one of the main causes of the flooding of the area, okay? There are other areas. We have a couple catch basins that were not part of the school project. Was it part of the playground project? I don't know. But the DPW goes down there and cleans those quite often. We feel as though that is one of the main things we could do, is to put a new structure probably in there and tie it back into the culvert, which would help the area.
But I think the Tyka is probably, Tyka would give us, their gate structures being fixed would give us a lot of control over it. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the process
Would they let us,
would be.
you think they would let us have access to that to control it?
I think, I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, I don't know what kind of rules there are for flood control, if somebody has rights to the use of the water, basically. I mean, nobody uses it anymore, obviously, because that's, nobody uses water anymore, but still, we're having flooding problems because it's not been maintained.
Yeah, but there might be some sort of liability issue that.
Well, that's the other thing I'm
too.
thinking about.
I mean, all of a sudden, you're controlling the water that's at everybody's doorstep that surrounds the.
No, because there's overflows. You'd have an overflow, so it can
like
only
a
get up to a
spillway.
certain height, then it spills over the top, and that's how it happens. We wouldn't be controlling it up several feet. We'd just be able to hold back water when Joe's starting to get flooded out. You hold back the water goes down, and we don't have this big.
There used to be boards in there, and the boards were set at a high water mark, which was figured out by the
So the pond, you're saying the pond right now is below where it could be?
the pond right now is probably, when you're talking the water that's going into that culvert, quickly. You got Fitch Pond and Sterling, you got Sheen's Brook, you got South Meadow, you got Mossy, you got Coach Lace, you got Birded Hill, the top of Church Street, and all down through here is draining into that culvert.
I think.
Wow.
But one of the logical things to do would be to build that up, and then if the water's
Well, the
gonna
thing
spill
is two
over anyways.
things. You got a spillway basically that you can control. You can take, normally if it was operating right, you could take planks out of it and let water out that way. There's also a gate structure on the other side that you open it up and you can control water that way, just
But if
letting
we're
it
missing
out.
planks, why
If the
couldn't we
water
just-
comes up too high, it goes over the top.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just make a motion that we request the town administrator and DPW superintendent to contact the owners of Tyka to see if they'd at least be interested in letting us look at their gate structure and possibly maintain it, because in the end, it could save us quite a bit of flood control issues downstream. So I put that. in
Not
the form
just on Joe's property, but
No,
other
that's
properties
what I
too.
mean.
Yeah.
So I
You
put that
see-
in the form of a motion.
Yeah.
I have a picture here, and we won't go into that this evening, but the picture that I've got is the water height down in Ash Street before we built the school, where the water level is. It's at a certain, it's at a certain elevation. Now, that water level is there.
There's nothing you can
There's
do.
nothing we can do about that water level, but we can at least be able to hopefully control it by a few things that we haven't, that we can come up with.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second
That being
motion.
Coach Lace, a little better management, a couple things down in the field, in the playground, a couple of things down on the bottom of Ash Street where the water, where the road turns in. And I think that'll help. But Joe's backyard is down in a bowl.
Yeah.
And it's been there in that bowl, and it's, you know, we're trying to help him solve the problem, that's all.
Thank you both. So the motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to have the town administrator and DPW superintendent to talk to Tyka Corp. And hopefully establish something there on end. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Gentlemen, if you could, maybe we can set them up, Michael, to have them come back within a month, 1 month's time, obviously when all the snow's gone, and you know, you two can get in there for a better look and give us a, you know, an updated report within a month. So probably not next meeting, but the meeting after.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, good. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Am I up again? Yeah.
Next up, we have under old new business is the landfill study consultant. We, a few meetings back, we appointed a committee to review proposals submitted by 9 engineering firms to conduct a comprehensive site assessment at the former town landfill on South Meadow Road. And the committee, which was made up of our town solicitor, town administrator, and our DPW superintendent, have narrowed it down to 3 firms for our review. So I'll open up to the board for discussion.
Well, those people aren't here tonight, right?
No.
I'm sorry, Chris, if you just want to give us a little...
Yeah, basically, we received 9 quotes. We narrowed it down to 6 firms prior to the interviews, based primarily on experience. We disregarded 3 of the quotes. We just didn't feel they had the right experience for what we were looking for. We interviewed 6, and since then we've narrowed that down to 3. I'll give you a brief idea of the 3 of them. As you can see, one of them was one of the lower prices, was Woodard & Curran, $75,300. They have a lot of landfill experience. I personally dealt with them on several landfills back when I was in the private sector. Their biggest landfill in this region that they've worked on for years is the Leominster landfill, which is right on Mechanic Street. They designed and did basically all the work, all the gas studies and everything out at the Leominster landfill. They have several others in the central region, which I've only listed on the sheet you have in front of you, the central region experience, because I think that's kind of important, having a relationship with John Regan with the central region, you know, and these people have worked on several projects in the central region. The next firm we got is Weston Sampson. Their cost is about $10,000, $11,000 higher, $86,000. Of the three firms on the list, they probably have the most landfill. They probably have the most landfill experience in the state, across the state in all the different regions. I'd say they've done more landfill work than, you know, probably anybody in the state. I can't say that definitively, but they had a tremendous amount of experience in the central region. As you can see, I have the list. They've got a dozen landfills that they've done in the central region, and they've also completed they're completing a very similar study in West Boylston right now, where West Boylston has some of the same issues, but theirs is not so much, I wouldn't call it leachate, but they have staining going into the Wachusett Reservoir. So they're all very familiar with the problems that we have out there. They all spoke very confidently on what the problems were. Now the third firm is Brown & Caldwell. They were more money, almost $100,000. They also have a tremendous amount of experience in the central region. And the reason why we included them on the list of three is they're by far right now the most active engineering firm in the central region. They do all of waste management's work, so the Fitchburg landfill, where we bring all our rubbish, they do all the design, everything out there, everything to do with that landfill. The Barry landfill, which is another waste management landfill, they are out there designing and capping portions of the Shrewsbury landfill, which is also an active ash landfill. They deal with John Regan in the central region probably at least every other day. They're either calling him or emailing him. They're by far the most active in the central region right now, and that's why we included them. I think any of the three firms that we've got on here is plenty qualified to do the work. I think the reason why we gave three is just because Brown & Caldwell is so active right now. We thought that would be a positive thing. Weston Sampson, just a tremendous amount of experience on all types of landfills. Woodard & Curran, active in this region, could, you know, a little bit less money, obviously, which is always a concern. And they have plenty of experience. The guys, I've dealt with those guys for years and years on landfills, and they have the experience to do it. Not quite as active currently in the central region. So,
Thanks, Chris. Do board members have any questions for our DPW superintendent?
I think, Mr. Chairman, I know I briefly spoke with the DPW superintendent about the process and what they were going through. And I think an important point for us to consider here is this is one of the few times where we're not forced into a low bid situation. And being members of building committees in the past, we pay a price for having low bid processes often. So I think if there's a time for us to invest in something up front, it's to get the appropriate engineering force in place. So although it's a little bit more money, I'd be in favor and make a motion for Brown & Caldwell at the $99,000 mark. Having the most experience right now working in the central region, working with DEP and working with the landfills, I just think they're probably the most appropriate. And I think they're the most comfortable with our DPW superintendent and town administrator and solicitor when they went through the process. So I'd make that in the form of a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion under discussion. I share similar sentiments with Mr. Selectman Ellsworthy that I feel confident with the experience that Chris has had with working with them, and that makes me feel comfortable with that working relationship, which is very important whenever you take on a project of management. So that's why I would second this motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to go with Brown & Caldwell for the landfill consultant. Is there any other discussion? There being none, I'd just like to, again, thank Dennis, Mike, and Chris for serving on that committee. I know there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that you men did, so I appreciate, the board appreciates it. So again, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. I'll accept the motion to go back into regular session and agenda.
I'll make a motion to go back into regular session.
Regular order.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Steve here?
Yes, he's here. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, we're back into our regular order. We basically have a follow-up on a dog complaint issue. This is not a hearing. Basically, the dog owner called and asked us if she could come on the agenda and discuss her current situation up there. So I believe Ms. Druki is here with her attorney.
Yes, she is. Thomas Mullaney from Ms. Ruthie. What we have, Mr. Chairman, is a considerable change of circumstances from the time that this was before the board last on March 9th. At that time, I think everybody concerned thought of the procedure of debarking as the only way to handle this. Since then, there has been considerable effort put into finding other alternatives, and as you may have read in the papers today, Ms. Druki has arranged for a specialized dog training service, Barkbusters, out of Southborough, and engage them for a process that's to take approximately 5 weeks. They guarantee their work and believe that they will be able to take care of this problem. It does require that the owner, of course, cooperate to take care of the things that will be necessary to keep this from being an ongoing problem. I've spoken with her already. She understands that and has to sign something with Barkbusters agreeing to that. What we are asking you to do this evening is to simply put this matter on for, approximately an 8-week review with the dog officer to come back before you to see if a hearing is necessary. In speaking with Mr. David Cable, who's also here this evening from Barkbusters, he indicates that he expects the problem will be gone by then. So all we're asking you to do is sort of monitor this along with the dog officer, have him report back to you at that time. We believe the problem will be cured. And that's really all we're asking for you to do now. If, to the extent that that was an order that was issued the last time, would ask that that be revoked. We look at it in my consultation with town council. We both are of the feeling that that was really something more of an agreement to something that was being proposed to the selectmen. So we don't treat it in the nature of an order. So I do add that to the extent that that was in the nature of an order, we're asking for it to be revoked, but we do believe that that's not necessary.
Well, just for a point of clarification, it was not that's the information that we had was relayed to the selectmen by our dog officer on that issue about the...
That's correct, yes.
The vocal cords of the dog being severed, and the owner of that dog was not here we didn't hear her side
Absolutely.
of it.
We are not in the position at all where we're trying to put the selectmen in the position of having ordered something of that nature. We certainly understand that this was something where there was a miscommunication of some sort. At the time when this was even discussed back before that meeting, Ms. Druki didn't really understand the full extent of that procedure, and I don't think that anybody involved with it at that time understood that this was a matter or a procedure that was of some controversy even among veterinarians. Since then, that has come to light. So that's what started her on her quest to find some alternative to that procedure, and that's why we're before you.
Have you contacted our dog officer?
I have not been, no.
Okay. Well, let's open up the board members if they have any other questions.
Mr. Chairman, seeing how I was the vicious selectman, I guess, that made the motion was not an order. And it was presented to this board that the dog owner, who, as our chairman mentioned, did not present herself at the hearing, and in documentation presented to us by her, through our dog officer, it was her, our impression was that it was her intention and her desire for that to be the resolution for her barking dog issue. This board has never ordered a dog to be debarked, nor I think would we ever do that. The responsibility squarely falls on the shoulder of your dog owner that you represent here. She's responsible for her dog. She's responsible for the care of her dog. And she's not allowed, whether the dog is debarked or the dog is going through this barking training, to go out at 2 a.m. and not be brought back into the house and disturb her neighbors. So I'm fine with us giving a period of time for the dog to be trained. But during that time, I'd warn the dog owner not to allow her dog out at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, or she'll be here before 8 weeks, because it's not acceptable to the neighborhood to allow her to let a dog out and be barking, although being trained, in the middle of the night. So I'm okay with, not going forward with a debarking. That was never our intention. That was the impression we were given by the dog owner and the dog officer. But through this training period, which I think is a great idea, your dog owner has to be responsible for her dog. Right. And that responsibility means the dog doesn't get let out at midnight, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, and not put back in the house. Because there are neighbors right next door to them that deserve and have a right to sleep in peace. It's disturbing the peace in the middle of the night to have a dog barking. So there's responsibility there, and I want that conveyed.
And in cases before, ever since I've been on this board, any type of dog that's been barking, or I guess in this case just barking, we'd either order a barking collar, which most of the times is pretty successful, or we'd have the dog have to be adopted by another family or a pet farm or something like that nature. Like Selectman Elworthy said, we had never obviously ordered the vocal cords severed of any dog. Those are the two options we usually do. We do the barking collar, or we'd have to have, the pet, the owners would have to find a new home for the pet. And that's what we've always done. That's always been our procedure. So I just want you to understand that. Does any of the board members have any?
Mr. Chairman, I also agree with Selectman Elworthy that I totally agree with the bark busting idea. I think that's a great step to try to fix the problem, but as he said, within the 8 weeks, that dog can't be any more problems to the neighbors in the neighborhood. That needs to be, that's the problem here. The barking at night, that needs to cease, and neighbors need to sleep. So although it's a good idea, within that time, the barking needs to stop, or the dog can't be outside creating problems.
The real problem is when an owner lets a dog out, whoever that owner may be, in the middle of the night and doesn't bring the dog back in.
Right.
That's a problem.
That is the problem.
And when the dog barks excessively, it's not fair to the neighbors. So, you can't blame a dog for barking. Hopefully it can be trained to not bark as loud or as often, but certainly can't be barking in the middle of the night. So.
Okay, thank you. I know our dog officer is here. Steve, would you like to come forward and add anything?
I would also like to clarify that originally, when we first started this, I had also expressed a barking collar, which Anita had gone out and purchased.
Correct.
So that was step one. Why the barking collar didn't work, I don't know, because as you had stated, that has always been our procedure, and I don't believe we have ever had a failure with the barking collar. And I still think that, that's a perfect solution. So I just wanted to state that was number one choice, and a barking collar was purchased. So I'm certainly willing to go along, with a training period. However, ultimately, the responsibility does fall on the owner. At 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. You can train that dog all you want, but if you're putting the dog out at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's unacceptable. You can train it all you want, but, there needs to be some training with the owner also, because most people don't put their dogs out at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And there's documentation with the police, with myself, at those time of hours, and it's just unacceptable. And whether it's a training period for 8 weeks, if that continues, I also feel that we should be back before this board within that time frame to seek other action.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Any of the board members have any questions for our dog officer, Steve Mudgett?
I wouldn't even want to put a time frame on. I think it's false to put a time frame of 8 weeks or anything like that. I think, Mr. Chairman, that the dog's going to be trained. It's going to take 4, 5, or 6 weeks to train the dog, and hopefully long-term that solves the dog's problems. But from now forward, again, the issue gets back to time of day when that dog's being released outside. Right. And whether it be a week or 2 weeks from now, if it's 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, I think a dog hearing should be held, because it's the dog owner's responsibility or lack of responsibility or action, and we'll need to take further action. And if the dog collar doesn't work, then it's removal or finding the dog another home. But, you know, to put an 8-week time frame, I don't think that's fair to the dog owner, the dog, or to us. I think it should be just going forward, take care of your dog, get it trained, and put the issue to bed, and not be dealing with this or worrying about it as far as having to reconvene. I mean, if the dog issue gets resolved, there's no reason to come back before this board.
Right. No, I agree with that. I mean, Steve obviously will be keeping us abreast of the situation anyways. I'm sure you would get
I would
complaints.
like to make one other additional point.
Sure.
It is to my understanding that since our last meeting, that there has been other incidences after the 10 o'clock curfew where this dog has been out barking.
Okay.
And I just find that, in light of all the media and everything else, I just find it absolutely appalling that this dog is out after the 10 o'clock curfew. That is, it's not the dog's issue.
Right. Falls on the owner.
It falls
I
on
think
the
everyone
owner.
here understands that,
And
hopefully.
You can give that dog all the training in the world. It's not the dog's problem, it's not the dog's fault, it's the owner's fault.
Is there documentation on after the 10 o'clock curfew, the new stuff?
I have not been called. You know, you can call up some of the neighbors, I believe some of the neighbors are here, and if you'd like to have, you know, some discussion there, you know, that you know, may see.
Well, formal complaint, they would have to call you, obviously, and
Right.
you would have to
Right, but you know,
investigate it.
you know, I keep following it to kind of see how things are going, and these are some of the issues, and knowing that we're coming back before the board, you know, it's been ongoing, so it wasn't really necessary to be filing any more formal complaints, because this is all, could come before you again anyway, so, I'm just relaying the message and been kind of keeping tabs on this
Well,
right
yeah, you've
along.
been doing a great job. Thank you.
Okay. Any board members have any other questions? Dean, I know.
Steve just answered my question, if there were any other complaints. Mr. Chairman, I'd be open to trying the bark buster. I mean, I didn't want to go the other way to begin with. I'd be in favor of allowing some sort of a training period to happen, so just so you know where I stand.
Mr. Chairman, I withdraw the motion from the previous meeting regarding a notification of the owner doing it. And I'd make the motion that the dog owner proceed with her training with the stipulation that if the dog is, you know, being complained about in the middle of the night, that she will be called back without any time window for an additional dog hearing and potential removal of the dog.
I'll second that motion.
The motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I also think there was a misunderstanding, I think, of some of the facts and stuff like that. I don't think anybody on this board would want to do something to an animal. But as we definitely press on it, we're going to go back and talk about what happened and what didn't happen. I think we've come to the table to come to an amicable solution. If we all work together, we can make this happen. So I'm just calling everybody to work together to make sure that we, you know, we take care of the neighbors, we take care of the dog owner, we take care of the dog, and most importantly, that we don't put a dog out in the, 2 o'clock in the morning. There's no need for that. So we just need to work together and continue to work together to make sure that we serve the community. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, just in the discussion, you know, just to follow up on what you said, Steve, that, you know, basically comes down, and I don't want to sound like redundant here, but comes down to the owner. This is an owner's problem. It's not the dog's problem, it's the owner's problem. The neighbor's been putting up with it for much too long now. It has to stop. I think we're given a reasonable amount of time now for this to stop. Again, this is up to the owner. It's no one else's problem. This is the dog owner's problem. They have to rectify it. So I'll say that. Any other discussion?
I own a dog. I like dogs. I didn't mean to hurt anybody's feelings.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Good luck. Thank you, Stephen.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if the citizen wants to speak. Is that?
Sure, if you...
My name is Christine Bostick, and I live behind Miss Druki, and I haven't heard one thing yet tonight about what procedure this dog trainer is going to take and where the training is going to take place. I hope it's not at 6 John F. Kennedy Ave, that I have to listen to this dog still continue barking. And he has not discussed anything yet as to how this works.
I believe we have the dog trainer here.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
There he is. Would you like to proceed the bench, sir? the table. Thank you. Right.
That's number one.
Just state your name for the Selectman Secretary.
Dave Cable with Barnbusters of Southborough.
If you could just basically, I guess this training would take place during the day, and
Absolutely. It's done in the home. I've already met with Ms. Druki last Saturday. We spent a little bit of time working together and incurring a little bit of the Barkbuster system with Ms. Druki. She found it acceptable. She didn't find a problem with being able to do any of the vocal tones that we use or with our training aids that we use. She seemed to be amenable to it. She was finding that she was getting success for the short time that we were working with her. We did an exercise on Saturday where I went outside, deliberately tried to antagonize the dog into barking, and she got the dog to submit immediately.
Can I ask you this? Is the dog wearing any type of a collar?
Absolutely not. With our program, we don't advocate pinch collars or any kind of a bark collar or anything like that.
Is it ultrasonic, sonic of any type?
No, it is all human voice tones.
Okay. And how long do you think that this training is going to be going on?
Typically, the average training lasts between 4 to 5 weeks. Okay?
Can it be done off premises?
No.
what are the hours of training?
Training is usually only for an hour or two during the day.
Yeah, we're not talking 7 a.m., are we?
Oh, God, no. This can be done. Ms. Druki can practice this with either family members or anyone else during civilized hours. She apparently is a school teacher up in Lawrence. She can come home, be home at 3 or 4, whatever it is that her schedule is, do a little bit of practicing. Our exercises only take 5 to 10 minutes per exercise per day. And the more often that she can replicate that practice, the quicker the dog will start falling into play. Okay. Obviously, we agree with the selectmen and understand her neighbor's situation that nobody wants a dog out there at 2, 3 in the morning howling its head off. We will ask that Mr. Uki have certain hours that the dog will be brought out for bathroom purposes, and beyond those hours, which it sounds like you've already have a curfew in place, that she, commits to that agreement with you gentlemen. And if she follows the training program, and then even after the training program is over, it is imperative that she continue to maintain the disciplines that we've taught her. Because, like with any pack animal, it will always test the alpha in the family. If you show weakness, it's going to revert back and go back to the way it was. So she's got to be consistent with whatever she does with our program.
And while you train the dog, are you training the owner as well?
Actually, I don't train dogs. I train the owners.
Okay.
Because what happens is I can get any dog I want, the most aggressive, the most timid, to do what I want. But when I walk out that door, that dog is not going to be dealing with me after that. It's got to respect the owner. And that's where our philosophy has come from.
Good.
And I have one question, Mr. Chairman. Sure. Have you had success with the age of a dog of 10 years old? Have you been
Age has
successful?
nothing to do
Nothing
with
has nothing to do with it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I've trained as early as 8 weeks
Okay.
and as old as 14 years.
Okay.
So it's not a problem.
And the success rate is doing pretty good?
Absolutely.
Well, if you had to quantify that, what would you give it?
I've only had one failure, and that was due to the owner.
Okay. I don't know how many people.
I've trained about 100 dogs so far.
I was going to ask that, Mr. Chairman. Within your experience, how bad does this dog look?
I think he's
Have
very
you had
trainable.
worse? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll just make the comment that I'd like to thank you for coming to the community and helping this dog owner
Absolutely.
to try to get this resolved in a as good a way as possible for the owner and hopefully the neighbors as well. So.
Okay.
We certainly can
I'll
appreciate
echo that
that.
as well.
Ms. Bossett, do you have anything else to ask?
Just one
or
other thing,
add?
I guess if we have to come back in a session again, I would like to voice strongly that the dog would be removed from the town of Clinton.
Okay. Well,
Very
we'll take that into
strongly.
consideration. Hopefully it won't come to that, but if it does, we'll obviously, we will listen to the neighbors. I mean, obviously you're up there. so
Only
you know
because
what's
of
going on.
Ms. Druki's past history, and she has failed in every which way to conform to any of the rules that have been, suggested to her. So if this is the last failure, I would like something to be done.
Well, our dog officer will be in close contact with us. I'm sure we'll hear
Absolutely.
something if there's a
Steve's
problem.
been great through all of this.
He's always been very professional with us.
Yep, I agree.
I guess, I know that you've gone through a lot, but I guess I would ask that the neighbors that are there now to try to keep an open mind, because this looks like a professional that's willing to work with the dog, and just keep an open mind during it, but at the same time, if the barking is continuing and it's still a nuisance, that it starts with you guys with the complaint, so.
Correct.
Well, I think during the day, obviously, it's different, but if it's
No,
night, you gotta
that's what I'm
expect,
saying.
yeah.
If it continues it, if she's letting the dog go past the curfew hours, that has to start with you guys, so.
But the dog has been also an excessive barker during the day. She just lets him bark for a long period of time.
Okay.
And
Well, hopefully
I would
this
like
is-
that noted.
Right, but hopefully this is gonna cure them.
Hopefully this will rectify the whole situation.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, sir, for coming tonight.
Okay.
Can we take a 2-minute recess? Can we take a 2-minute recess?
Motion for a 5-minute recess.
I'll make a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Motion's been made for a 5-minute recess. Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Yeah, we have a Public Works staffing issue, and I know the DPW superintendent's here. Chris, if you'd like to approach.
Chris, you're getting a lot of airtime tonight.
I am. Well, the big cameras are gone now, though, so.
Okay.
It's not fun anymore.
I have a feeling I'm not making the 10 o'clock news, though.
Chris,
All
thank
right.
you.
Last meeting, we talked about posting for a position in the road department, in the water department, which I've done that. But I'd also like to post for, right now we have Jimmy McLaughlin had his leg operated on. He's probably going to be out for 4 to 6 months, which leaves us quite short-handed. So what I would like to do is post a position internally for a road department position. So chances are one of the rubbish people will come off rubbish onto the road department. And then I would like to advertise 2 positions. One would be the replacement hire for the water department, and one would be to hire a person, and we could call it a temporary position, I suppose, for, to take Jimmy's place. And then there's no definites yet, but there's a pretty good chance that we may end up having a retirement before Jimmy comes back. So then we could make that basically another permanent position. But we have no guarantees on when that's going to happen, but there's a good chance that that could happen before the 6-month period is up. So.
And we've hired
We've done that in the past.
And actually, right now we have 2 temporary employees. So I think when we do hire the new employees, what we'll do, because we still have people out on comp that's probably going to could be very long-term. So, but we still should keep at least one of these 2 new positions as a temporary hire, and we should make the people that are now temporary still work and make them permanent employees. And we could do that all in one fell swoop probably and get the whole thing straightened out. So basically I want to post an internal position for the road department and then advertise for 2 additional employees, all within budget still, within what we've already talked about.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we allow the DPW superintendent to post 1 full-time position and 1 temporary position for his department.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and
Actually, we should amend that. They should both be temporary positions.
Excuse
So
me,
there's
both.
1 posting and 2 hires, but they're both, because we still have
They're gonna come
Kevin
into that temporary
Flaherty,
position?
who's on comp, and Jimmy,
So I
so.
withdraw that. I'll make the motion that both positions are temporary.
And I'll second that.
Motion's been made and second on the Public Works staffing. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Good luck,
Thanks.
Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Get plowing.
Yeah.
Hopefully all rain tonight.
Close wax.
Yeah. So you hear 2 to 4, then 8 to 12.
Yeah, you never know.
They're trying to create a great window there for themselves. They're doing a good job. Next up, we have the assistant town accountant issue. We have 10 responses, and actually, I believe 8 came in within the guidelines. So I say we just go with the 8. And
You couldn't do
I don't think anyone's comfortable doing it tonight. I mean, I haven't really
No.
reviewed them, so maybe at the next meeting we could do it. Go ahead with the process.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, at least from a discussion standpoint, allow the accountant to maybe meet with the the 8 that have come in, and either allow her to rank all 8, or cut it to 6 or 5 and bring those people back. Ultimately, my rationale is that Diane is going to be responsible and have to work with this person. I think it's critical that up front, her
Diane is here tonight at Town Council. You just come forward and...
perspective is at least listened to, and we can gauge it.
Okay. So Diane, that works with you? You could screen them, seeing how you are going to be working with them? And
Yes, I
give
do
us
have
your
one
response.
question, though.
Sure.
I thought I was given 10 resumes.
There was 8
Was I
to 10
given
you
10?
There's only 8 that responded in the correct manner, so we're going to go with the 8.
So do I know which
You
2?
will.
Yes, you will. Yeah. You should already know
I guess
that.
we'll make sure that
You
you
will.
find out whether to
2 missed the deadline, basically, is what happened. So we're not going to honor those 2. We're going to honor the 8.
There was one in my office. Does that? There was one in my office on Friday. I left early, and it was kind of stuck there, and when I found
But I
out...
believe in the advertisement, it says Selectman's Office. So,
I know
mean,
that.
that's, depending how you want to cut it, but I mean, it's simple instructions, I mean.
Yeah, I guess
do it, too.
they didn't follow the guidelines or they didn't come within the deadline.
I mean, they have to be in Michael's hand by the end of closing.
We've always had it that the deadline was the deadline.
Right.
We started changing that.
I don't want to start setting precedent saying it's good for one person, someone else is going to come in and just start doing
Yeah, we
what they
should just
want.
go with the 8, I guess.
I think part of it was my, well, if I didn't leave early Friday, I think the person...
Right.
th-
But
I had
it clearly
another
says on
woman-
the advertisement that they are to be received in the Selectman's office by closing.
I do know
which
that,
is
but
fine.
I had another woman come into my
That's the
office 2
issue I
days
have.
before that, and I told her where to go. So, because I left early Friday, and then when I found out it was in my office, I called.
Yeah, but we can't put that on the employees at the town hall. I mean, it clearly states in the advertisement where to send the resume to.
I guess I would look up from an account point of view, if somebody can't follow directions, I'd be concerned when they're gonna be playing with numbers. From my point of view. So, that's one thing.
Well, so my motion, I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, is that whatever that number is between the chair and the town accountant, whether it be 8 or 10, it sounds like it's going to be 8, that she's allowed to review them and
Screen them.
and come up with if there's 8, come up with 5, and come back to us with your recommendations and bring those 5 back before us.
Yeah.
I'll second that motion in discussion. I'm sure this is gonna happen that we have good accountant experience, because if you have to go on vacation or something, I wanna have somebody that I'm gonna feel comfortable that you're not there, they can do that position when you're on vacation, because there is gonna be vacation
agree.
and stuff like that, so, I think I have to agree that's a lot better, obviously.
I agree.
Having a couple of seminars is not the same thing as having an accountant.
I agree.
So, we're trying to hire qualified professional people. And I'm sure they'll do that.
Is that, motion's been made? Was there a second to that?
I did second that.
Okay. Any other discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, it's unanimous.
Diane, thank you for your...
Thanks, Diane, good luck. Okay, next up we have, looks like the issue with the master plan that Donnie Lowe, our Community Economic Director, brought up to us at the last meeting. He has sent a memo to us indicating in the Finance Committee, requesting that the Finance Committee meet with Planning Board to discuss an article on that issue of the funding for the master plan for the town of Clinton. So that's just an update from last meeting. And we have up, this is kind of sounds like an oxymoron. It says the annual first community basketball night. I guess that's for the benefits, the NIPRO,
first,
yeah,
US
NIPRO
first.
first. So that's going to be taking place at, I believe it starts at 4 or 5 on, at the Clinton High School
April 6th.
on April 6th this year. So again, I'm looking for, I'll be there. I know, Mark, you're going to be there?
Absolutely. We are
I'll be
going
there.
to beat, if we have the opportunity.
Play the
we will
police
be
department
beating
again?
the police department this year.
We've come, first year we came close, but we lost it in the final second. So.
That's an absolute
Yeah.
We'll take
fact.
it. We'll take it.
They will go down this year.
So I'm just urging everyone to come down there and show your support, and that's on Wednesday, April 6th, and it's for a good cause. It's for the, the NIPRO first, for the students that go down.
There's a bunch of us.
Well, a bunch of us
Only
playing.
if it's a regular.
No, I'm saying, it has to be us. We can't send our kids in or anything.
If he's good,
Well, I
yeah.
don't know, maybe, I don't know.
I don't know about that, dude.
Yeah, I think they're looking for a couple of laughs, so they want to see us play.
Yeah,
you know?
they get a couple of laughs out of it.
But that is, as Chairman mentioned, that is an important fundraiser for the US
Yes.
First the high school NIPRO first team, which we ought to congratulate for their outstanding achievements here in the Northeast over the past month, so.
Over the years, they've been doing a
Yeah.
great job representing the town well, so
Yeah.
congratulations and keep up the good work.
And Look out, police department.
Yeah. Next up, we have committee reports. Is there any committee reports?
A committee report, I guess, at least an update, is that we'll be holding actually next week, there's a couple different subcommittees I'm on.
Yeah.
The insurance subcommittee will be meeting next Monday afternoon, and the building needs committee for the senior center will be meeting Monday night, and I believe our budget subcommittee will be meeting on,
Sometime next week, I believe.
yeah, I'm not sure if it's Tuesday or when.
Mark, what was that insurance subcommittee?
Monday afternoon.
I don't think we set a date for that subcommittee
Okay,
yet, so
okay.
it's kind of up in the air. All right, anything else?
That's it.
Chairman?
Yes? Yes, committee reports?
Committee report, the Emergency Management / Public Safety Committee met this morning. Myself, Fire Chief, DPW Superintendent, Emergency Management Director, Mike Ward, and the representative from WORAD. We're trying to button down some costs as to revamping pretty much the whole communications infrastructure in town. We'll have an estimate probably within the next week or two as to doing, it would be really nothing with the fire department, police department, because they have a great need, DPW and emergency management. Emergency management would probably house also the elder van, senior center van. Perhaps the building inspector could carry a portable radio, just to facilitate communications amongst different departments. Our goal is to be able to do that, to have
Everyone on the same
everybody,
page,
have
basically.
everybody on the same page and eliminate having to go through multiple dispatchers or secretaries
Yeah.
to.
No, it makes great sense. I mean, I just hope we can get the funding for it. I mean, that's something I've
And
always...
the funding would probably be a borrowing article, but we're not there yet. We're not,
That's
we haven't
good.
come up with any hard figures yet.
Okay. Well, thanks for your service on that, Dino. Appreciate it. I just have one that, I don't know if Steve wants to take, but we're both on the recycling commission. We met earlier today, and we've set the parameters for another bulk item recycling day, and it's going to be this April 30th, 2005, on Saturday, like we've done in the past. It's going to be from 8 to noon time, so it's 8 in the morning to 12 o'clock noon, and we'll be taking all sorts of things, appliances, bulk items, mattresses, box springs, furniture. What else? Microwave TVs. I'll have a list, and there'll be more information that follows. But I just wanted to put it out there that we have decided to keep the prices as is last year and the same vendors, so we feel comfortable that we can do that and pass the savings on to the people of Clinton and give them a good deal. So again, that's going to be April 30th next month, and it's going to be on a Saturday. It's going to start from 8 o'clock in the morning to 12 noon, and I'll read off all our items that we'll be accepting and a price list for those items at the following meeting. So that's what we have on Recycling Commission news. And I'll open it up. Any other committee reports?
No, I just had a comment, though. I wanted to personally thank Ron Howard, the senior center, for stepping in and helping out with the senior center, and since Carol has left the position, so he's really done a good job out there helping out. So I really want to thank him for filling in. Thanks, Ron, for helping out.
Ronnie's definitely a class act, and he's been involved with the town for numerous years, and very dedicated individual. And, we're blessed to have him, and we should have more employees like him. Not that we don't, but I'd like to have every employee like Ronnie, because he's very, very dedicated. So I echo that as well, Stephen. Thank you, Ronnie, for filling in. Appreciate it. Any public comment out there? Yes, sir. Just state your name and address for our Selectman Secretary.
South Meadow Road. Wanted to thank and commend both the committee and the selectmen with respect to your recent awarding of the contract for South Meadow CSA ISA to Brown and Caldwell. We think it's a very good choice. I wanted to mention again, I think that we the South Meadow Pond and Wildlife Association had provided a letter to the selectmen back in August when we had met just prior to the public meeting that we had with John Reagan and the DEP offices. And in that letter, we, I think, outlined a number of different things that were important to us as a public association, a pond association that's very interested in what's happening in the landfill and the potential environmental impacts that are occurring out there. One of the things that we had outlined was the necessity for public involvement. It's not just 310 CMR 19, which is the set of provisions that John Reagan is acting under that are important to the process, but also Chapter 40 in that section as well, which is the mass contingency plan, dealing with environmental emergencies and a whole different set of things. There are very strong public involvement provisions that are in Chapter 40. We had asked John Reagan if he wouldn't invoke those provisions as we are going forward with the ISA and the CSA and subsequent steps. And he agreed that it was a very useful thing to do, that it would be beneficial probably to all concerned to have that opportunity for public involvement. So we just wanted to to remind the selectmen that from our point of view as a pond association, that we're very much interested in ongoing involvement, appropriate public involvement. There are probably steps along the way where there's critical data that's been collected or reports that have been issued. These would probably be natural segues, for doing a public meeting of some kind, announcement of results, solicitation of public feedback, and so forth. It's that kind of thing that we're looking for. In particular, one of the requirements that John Reagan had asked for as part of the scope of work for the comprehensive site assessment is what's called the environmental risk assessment. In all of the years, of this particular problem of leaching into the South Meadow ponds, there's never been any such item. We've never seen a risk assessment. So at this point in time, the DEP is not even prepared to say, whether there is environmental damage going on out there, the extent to which environmental damage is going on. So from a ponds association's point of view, this is probably one of the most important things that we're looking for. It is included in the scope of work that Brown and Caldwell, be working on. So we just wanted to kind of reiterate some of the things that we had said previously in August. And again, we thank and commend the work all the way around. I think it's a very positive moment altogether for the Pond Association, for the ponds, and the species that are out there that are dependent upon a healthy ecosystem. So again,
Well, I'd just like to thank the Pond Association as well, because even as long as I've been here, it seems like there's always been someone from the association giving myself, I know, an educated experience in some of these things that I did not know. So I'd just like to thank the group, and obviously this board here is committed to the environment, especially in the town of Clinton here. There's been a problem. We're trying to address it as best we can. I think this consultant group coming in will do a fine job for the town, and hopefully we get to this situation and clean it up as best we can and keep everyone on the same page.
we appreciate the commitment.
No problem. Take care. Thank you. Okay, next up, any other public comment? There being none, I guess I'll accept a motion to go into executive session on roll call. Excuse me.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
That's what I was looking for. Motion.
Under Article 2 and 3?
3, yes.
2 and 3.
So we're going to go into executive session, and then after that, we should probably be in executive session for no more than 30 minutes. Sure. Say 30 to 45 minutes. And then after that, the only thing we'll have left is signing of the warrants, and that's it, and then we'll adjourn. Oh, we might supposedly have, we do have State Rep Harold Lapham? Okay, so before we adjourn, we might hear from State Rep Harold Nunn as well to give us an update.
So we'll be reconvening back in open session to do those?
Yes, we'll be reconvening back, and if he's not here, then we'll give him a few minutes. If he doesn't show up, we're heading out, so hurry up, Harold. So that's it. So thank you, thanks all for watching. Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, we're back in a regular session, and we have our state representative here, Harold Naughton, to give us an update. What's going down in the great city of Boston up there in Beacon Hill. Harold, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. No greater than the great town of Clinton. And I just left the Sterling Select Board, and they're wishing the town luck with the new fire truck. I just wanted to come, the House is going to be debating the FY06 budget the last week of this month. And I wanted to come in this time and kind of give you a heads up on what things we're looking at like, and then my intent would be after the House finishes its version to come back out, probably sometime in May in the interim before the Senate takes it up, and let you know where we ended up and then where we go from there. Obviously the biggest thing on everyone's mind is Chapter 70 and state aid, local aid. And you've probably seen the governor's figures. We're hoping to be, actually I'm hoping to, even before we get into the budget debate the last week of April, to have a local aid resolution, the House and the Senate, Democrats and Republicans, to agree on what the local aid figures will be. It'll be good for the towns as you proceed towards town meeting. As you proceed towards town meeting to, obviously, in planning the town budget. Secondly, it's good for those of us that are legislators, because it literally takes, when we go through budget debate week, which is at least a week long and 12, 14, 15, 18 hours a day, to take that local aid, which is close to 25% of the budget, to take that off the table even before we walk into that debate. It makes it a lot easier for us to allow us to move on to social services, environment, public safety issues like that. So I am not going to say that the figures will be as generous as what the governor has promised in House 1. What I will say is that there is a surplus. Again, the devil in the details, nobody can agree what the surplus is, House or Senate, or Democrats or Republicans. But I will tell you right now, the attitude of the chair of the Ways and Means Committee, the House Ways and Means Committee, and we've just finished up statewide hearings on the budget. We had I was fortunate enough to be appointed to chair 2 of those hearings remaining on the Ways and Means Committee, as I am. Speaker reappointed me this year. The goal would be to not use that entire surplus, because even this year we still have $1.6 billion in a structural deficit in the state budget. Now, one of the members of the Select Board in Sterling said to me, "What do you mean by a structural deficit?" Structural deficit is there are certain fixed costs within the state budget, the biggest one being Medicaid, which is literally a budget buster. We've got to find something over the next few years to start dealing with that, with the aging population. A lot of the same reasons why the feds, agree with them or not, are looking to try to do something with Social Security. We're getting hammered with not just the Medicaid payments to people on assistance, but to our senior citizens. And the goal is to find something over the next few years to start encouraging people our age, say, to start investing in. My idea would be long-term care plans, and stop making these sophisticated estate planning techniques that people go to attorneys and estate planners for less desirable, less attractive, so they don't have to jump through all these hoops to move their assets around prior to them getting older. So we're looking to find a plan. This is just one example of a budget buster of the structural deficit. There are several others. Community, local aid being one of them, state employee health care being another. But the goal would be, by the end of the next fiscal year, fiscal year 07, to have eliminated these structural deficits, so that we don't have to use stopgap methods every year, as we have since the economy went south. We've been lucky. We had $3 billion in in rainy day funds and stabilization funds. That's built back up to about $900 million this year. Wall Street wants it at that $3 billion figure to keep the state's bond rating at the level that it should be at, so they aren't charging humongous interest for the state's bonds. So we'd like to get back in that direction. And we've been lucky the past couple of years. Last year, about $600 million came in from the federal government in unexpected Medicaid and Medicare assistance. That plugged that gap one year. The year before that, capital gains taxes came in at a higher rate than expected, so that plugged it for another year. But we've been lucky to have these various methods, stopgap methods over the last few fiscal years to be able to plug this structural deficit. It's not going to continue. We've got to eliminate that structural deficit for the long-term fiscal health of the Commonwealth and fiscal health of the communities, because it will allow us, it's like interest on your credit card. If you're going to pay 19% interest or 12% interest, well, which card are you going to use? If you're only paying 12%, that's going to leave more money that can come back to the communities. So that's the goal. So I do think you'll see a little bit of a fight and some discussion. I think there will be some effort to plow the entire surplus back into local aid or into the state budget. I don't necessarily think that's fiscally prudent at this time. It's nice and it's attractive this year, but for the long-term fiscal health of the Commonwealth, I don't think that's appropriate. Though I will say, I do think, I have a very strong feeling, having been involved with the Ways and Means Committee as intimately as I have been, and working my way up into the leadership of it this year, that I think the town will be happy with what comes down, and I think we can anticipate some figures that will be of assistance to the town over last year's figures. I know I talked to the town administrator, Mike Ward, yesterday about that, and how the town, with that one-time grant to the town last year of, what was it, the $160,000, that was able to help out with, I forget what Mike said, maybe the town health insurance benefits. But anyways, we'd like to get back to that point where we're at that level. You don't have to wait for that, a lucky thing like that one-time grant to the town that we did through the lottery assistance last year. So there has been a proposal, which I am supportive of in some form, to take the cap off of lottery assistance and over a span, be it 5 years, 10 years. I really have a belief that right now, 100% of lottery funds are not coming back to the communities. Lottery proceeds are not coming. Every year it varies somewhat. I do think it should get back to the point where it was at in the 70s when the lottery was created, that 100% of the proceeds of lottery funding should come back to the towns. I think you will be seeing a formula to do that, not next year, not 100% next year, but a percentage every year over the next several years to the point where 100% will be coming back. The governor would probably like to do it in 5 years. I don't think the legislature will necessarily go along with that, but I think within the next decade.
What are the lottery funds that get back?
As I started thinking about it, Mark, I don't have the exact figure. Something wants me to say 67%, okay. But as I started the discussion, I said to myself,
So
I should have that figure.
It's almost like what you get when you win. You get about 67% of the charge. And the state takes about 33%.
Harold, if I could just make a
Sure,
comment,
please.
sitting on the budget subcommittee with Chairman Yakabuchi, it is absolutely critical for this community to get substantially more than what's in the current governor's version of the budget. If we were to slash, and I mean significantly slash, the proposed budgets that have come before us, we would still end up in a minimum a few $100,000 deficit. And that would be, at that point, still impacting several jobs throughout this community. So,
And that's even based on the governor's figures.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very tight.
So, if we can get, a couple more $100,000 or a few hundred more $1,000, it is going to save several probably in the well, I don't want to put numbers out there because it would spook people, but there are jobs, significant numbers of jobs that are on the line in this community that we need to try to protect. Like the state in a similar ways, we have a structured deficit problem here where we've used up different revenue streams that we've been able to utilize in the past. This year, those revenue streams are exhausted. So we have to rely on, we're caught in the sense that we have certain mandates, especially when it comes down on the educational side, that absolutely crushes their budget. And they're doing the best they can to meet the state requirements when it comes to transportation, for special needs, when it comes to...
Special needs.
25% of their budget, Harold, is dedicated to special needs. And that's not to take away from it, but a lot of impact there has to do with out of service and displaced, services that have to go outside the community. They have huge dollars that get mandated that have to be spent on transportation going outside of the community. So, the pie gets all divvied up, and we get stuck as a community under several different kinds of state mandates. We have the health insurance costs that you mentioned earlier that continue to escalate. Hopefully this year, I think we're going to have a better situation than we've had in the past as far as the increase, not a decrease, but an increase, will be minimized. But if we can see, some significant increase in the governor's, at least proposed local aid, it will seriously
We need
help this
every,
community.
we need every penny.
Yeah.
Because if we don't get it, there's going to be,
So
could be some scary moments.
it gets down to basic math, right? We can only spend what we can take in. And the services that we need to provide have to fit within that equation. And
Yeah, I mean,
this year is different.
We've been doing everything on our end. I mean, we even just increased the fee for, building permits, all that across the board. I mean, we're searching for everything. So every dollar, every penny is going to count. So we need whatever you can get us.
Okay.
And we know you
Can't-
will
can't
fight
say
for
it
us.
more
And
clear.
No, I appreciate that.
it's just,
On the SPED issue, and that's bothered me because I've had several conversations with Kathy McGrail about DSS placements into the town, and I was chairing a hearing of the Ways and Means Committee at Middlesex Community College up in Lowell into the education. I had Chairman Driscoll of the Department of Education in front of me, and I asked him about that. And I actually asked the, what's his name, the Commissioner of DSS about it too, and he kind of pushed it off on DOE about the return of the so-called state ward account from years ago, where there was actually a separate line item in the budget until the mid to late 90s for DSS placements into the community, and it's great that we have a loving and nurturing community and families in our town that would take these unfortunate youngsters in, but as you know, a much higher percentage of those youngsters are required SPED services, and Kathy's just informed me that that's part of it, a lot of it. They're getting hammered by these youngsters coming into the town with issues. So I've pushed him for, he tells me, and he's a very professional, very good man, but that their attitude is, well, we got rid of that state ward account because we just rolled it into the Chapter 70 figures, and it's taken into account in your town. And quite honestly, I don't believe him. And I said that as a commissioner. I just don't believe that. And I think we need to get back to the point where the Department of Education puts that state ward line item back into the budget. And I've mentioned it to the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. And it probably will be an amendment. If we don't include it in the printed budget, it'll probably be an amendment I'll be filing as we go in.
well, I know they get faced with, timelines within the year, and after a certain period of time this spring, you have a child move into our community, and I won't speak for them, but then, if they come in after that deadline, we own, or excuse me, before that deadline, we own them, and otherwise, then maybe the former community may own them. And it is exorbitant, so just any and all assistance, obviously, that you can provide us, because if we don't see an increase in what the governor's numbers are, we're going to have some serious structural impact from a services standpoint here in town.
Okay. As the committee's aware, as the board is aware, the governor didn't see fit to include the historic compensation to the town the Wachusett Reservoir in his version of House budget, of House 1. The chair of the Ways and Means Committee has committed to me that that will be in the House version of the budget.
My comments were based on the assumption that that would definitely be taken care of.
That's,
If you were to have that
under
multiplier in,
oh, that's, you kidding me, that's,
raise the flag.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
I've always got to get that out of the way when I go into these discussions first, before I can even start
that's
discussing.
job
anything
number
else.
one, we have to have that secured.
So,
That's something they're always trying to whack us on.
He's committed. And it was an interesting discussion because he is also, besides being chair of the Ways and Means Committee, he's also chair of the MWRA caucus, so it's, but he's a fair person, and he's committed to me that that will be there, as well as maintaining the Clinton District Court.
Good to hear.
Very also,
Good to hear.
in our courthouse. Does any of the board members have any other questions or comments for our state representative? No?
I just want to thank you, Hal, for continuing to support us as you do this.
Thanks.
You know, and,
Thanks for coming out and briefing us and keeping us abreast of what's going on out there. And, you know,
One last
appreciate
question.
it.
So you think near the end of April, may have an idea?
That's the goal. I mean, it's, whatever the last Monday of April is when we start the budget debate. And the goal is, according to the chair today, is to have some budget, some local aid resolution agreed by all parties, House, Senate, Democrats, Republicans, to the municipalities so they can go forward to their town
Yeah.
meeting. So as soon as we have that, you know, if I have the opportunity to come back into a meeting between now and then and explain where it's at, that'd be great. I'll be happy to.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back. So keep us.
Those are the numbers we're waiting on.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back. Let us know what's going on, and you know.
We'll buy you dinner, we'll get you coffee, whatever you want, state rep.
well, Mark will get you coffee.
So,
Maybe on his salary. I don't know.
You know, I don't know.
well,
Free dinner down at the Gale House.
I just want to, you know, say thank you. It's always a pleasure working with this board. And if I don't have the chance publicly to be in front of your board again before the town election, I just want to say thank you to Chairman Iacobucci, Selectman Zapantis, for your years of service to the town. Believe me, you know, we all know what it's like to put our name on that ballot every now and then, and the slings and arrows you take in public office. But until you do it, and until the people in the public do it, they don't know what it takes. It's a lot of commitment. It's time away from your family. It's time away from your businesses and your other interests. And on behalf of myself and my family, and I'd like to think I can speak on behalf of the town, I'd like to thank you for your service. It says a lot when people, young people, people with families, take away from that, take away from their careers and commit to the town, and it's very impressive, and I wish you luck, and we're going to miss you. I really enjoyed working with you, and I hope you, after you take a little breather and get your legs, sea legs back and get to know your families again, that you decide to come back into public life at some point. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Harold. Appreciate the kind words. Thank you. Thank you, Harold.
Thanks, Harold. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Spent the last 2 days.
Thank you for being there without that information.
Appreciate it, Harold. Take care. Thank you again. Okay, this time we're going to go into executive session for real.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we're going to defend into Article 2
And
/ 3 for fire chief.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Just under discussion. After that, we'll just be signing the warrant for real this time. So no more make-believe. Roll call vote.
Aye.
Steve? Aye. Chairman votes aye. We'll be going into executive session on Article 2 and 3 for actions on the fire chief issue. So thank you, and after this, we'll be just signing the warrant. Thank you.